Hey guys, this is Bill Meeks. Thanks for joining us today on this lovely, lovely Friday morning. I'm really excited to talk to my guest today, Faith Benson. I just wanted to hop on here real quick before we get started and let you guys know that I'm trying to put together sort of a call-in episode where I can talk to a bunch of people for a little bit of time about where they're from. If you want to be involved in that, I got to get it scheduled right. So go ahead and shoot me an email at bill@billmeeks.com. And we'll get you hooked into the scheduling process for that. I'd love to do it maybe the first week of November. So, you have some time, but not a lot of time. All right, well, I guess we'll go ahead and get started with the main show then. And to do that, as always, I'm going to play this little intro video that I'm looking to find right here. Welcome to Where I'm From, the podcast that proves no matter how far you go, you'll always keep a little piece of home with you. I'm Bill Meeks. This week, Faith Benson, the Director of Growth Marketing for tech startup Gun.io, joins me to talk about where she's from, Allegheny, New York. If you hit Buffalo, you gone too far. Faith Benson is a growth marketer by trade, but she's also a bit of a podcaster. She's the co-host of two shows. What's a Job?, where she and her co-host Maria Sabb talk to people like managers, celebrity wardrobe stylists, and Hollywood studio directors to find out what their jobs actually entail. Faith also co-hosts the Frontier podcast, a behind-the-scenes look at the trials and tribulations of global tech talent agency Gun.io. Full disclosure, I edit the podcast. And we're not going to be talking about tech today, mostly. We're talking about Faith's hometown, Allegheny, New York. The town of Allegheny sits beside the scenic Allegheny River as it flows through southwestern New York State down to one of my old haunts, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Allegheny was originally called Burton, which is why the Burton Bar and Restaurant is still one of the best spots in town to get a hamburger. It's also where infamous litterer Johnny Appleseed supposedly started his tree planting spree all those years ago. Let's take a bite out of Allegheny with Faith. And I'd like to welcome to the show Faith Benson. How are you doing today, Faith?
Hey, Bill. I'm great. How are you doing?
Great. You're in Nashville now. We're talking about New York today, but you're in Nashville now. Has the winter hit there yet, or is it still kind of?
We were dangerously close this week. We had a couple mornings where it was 32 when I was out walking the dog, but we're back today. I think we'll be back in like 80 degrees for the next couple weeks. So our winter is it's a winter. It's like winter light.
Yeah. I used to live just a little bit south of there in Atlanta, and it very rarely snowed, but when it did, it was like snowpocalypse. The whole town shut down.
Yeah, because there's no like plows or anything. There's nothing you can do about it. You just have to like stay inside, walk everywhere. It's pretty crazy.
Absolutely. Well, we're not here to talk about your current home of Nashville today. We're here to talk about where you're from, which is Allegheny, New York. So I was doing some research, and I saw that there's Allegheny, the town, and then Allegheny, the village. Do you know what the difference was there?
So, yeah, the village is a lot smaller. It's just like a couple of streets. It's downtown. So they are different. They're different jurisdictions. And I think they've got different elections, but the town is where, most things happen, as far as I know. I know that it's bigger, so.
Were you technically from the town or the village?
The town. Yeah.
Okay, so that's where your pro-town bias comes from, I guess.
Yeah, there's not like separate schools or anything. Our school is a central school, so it covers like several towns. Mm-hmm. I'm from a really rural place, so I think that's probably true for a lot of folks from those areas where the school is. It's not like Nashville where we've got a school in every neighborhood. It's one school covers a huge amount of physical space. So.
A huge swath.
Yeah.
I actually, the last episode I recorded, I talked to a guy who was from Kansas, and it was like, I think 10 towns all fed into this one elementary school that had less than 100 students.
Oh, yeah.
So a little bit of difference of scales there.
Yeah.
Okay, so Faith, you did mention when we were setting this up and everything, podcasting has been overtaken by true crime, and apparently there was a juicy unresolved murder at a local ski resort where you're from. So why don't you tell people a little bit about that? Trying to get those numbers.
Oh yeah. Well, people are always searching for like ski wing murder, new news, and there never is. But yeah, so this is in the 70s. There's a ski resort. There was a ski resort actually right next to my grandparents' house. And by resort, I mean like, I don't know how many runs there were, maybe 10 runs. People who actually were alive then and skied this hill are going to come for me for being incorrect with all this data, but it was small.
Well, I don't think true crime fans are necessarily focused on the facts. They're focused on like the sexiness of the crime. You know?
Yeah, I don't think they're worried about how many ski runs there are. I'm from a ski family though, so my family's gonna be like, "What do you mean you got that wrong?" Anyway, yeah. So in the 70s, there was a double homicide at the ski resort. So there were two groomers who were there grooming, and they were robbed, and it seems like the robbery went wrong. And those two folks were killed, and it's never been solved. Whoever committed the murder stole a safe.
Oh wow, that's a hard thing to steal.
Yeah, it was like in the ground, like they had to like drill it out of the ground. So they stole that, and from what I remember, there was not a whole lot of money inside. And then that safe was found actually by my childhood home. There's like a abandoned bridge. And it was found kind of like tossed off that bridge. So yeah, they've never.
Was it found while you were living there?
This is in the 70s, and I was born in the 90s, so not while I was living there. I think it was like shortly after the crime that they found it.
Gotcha.
And I think there's been like varying degrees of interest and activity with this investigation over the last 50 years. Holy smokes! But generally, I think it's pretty cold. I think folks think they know who it was, and it's such a small town that it's like, well, it's probably somebody we know, and I don't know, just kind of lost steam, I guess.
Yeah, well, I guess if it happened in the 70s at this point, even if they figure out who actually did it, they're probably not there to prosecute at this point.
Right, or if they are, it's like a family. I think everybody kind of thinks it was a family, like an organized crime family.
Oh, okay. It was a hit.
Yeah, or somebody was hired to do it and whatever. But
yeah,
it's like something that kind of comes up every couple of years in my hometown, and people remember, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we got to figure this out," and nothing happens.
Is there any sort of like tourism related to it, like, or do people like stop into town to like investigate or see the landmarks or anything?
No, when I was a kid, the thing was, when you first got your license and you're just trying to like wreak havoc during witching hour, you drive up to Ski Wing and park your car because the rumor was that it was haunted. So this happened, and then I think before this happened, there was an accident on the ski lift where a little boy was killed.
Ooh.
Yeah, so the thing was, you go to Ski Wing to see ghosts, or if you're really badass, you go to Ski Wing and carry your skis up the hill and ski down the super messy terrain. So, but otherwise, I think it's actually owned privately now, and I think it's like a hunt club or something like that.
Gotcha.
But, yeah, not open to the public unless you're an 18-year-old with little regard for the law.
And as far as we know, not hunting the most dangerous game, man. Right?
No.
Okay,
no, I'm pretty sure it's like deer and turkey.
So it's come up a couple times skiing. So I guess do you have a passion for skiing that you kind of took advantage of while you lived there?
I have a passion for drinking bourbon and beer in the lodge after I do a couple runs. I'm not a competitive skier. My mom is a ski racer. My sister's a really great skier. Cousins, aunts, uncles are all good skiers. I have never fallen. I'm a very cautious skier, and I enjoy it, but it's not, I don't do it nearly as often as I probably should. But every time I go home, we do go. There's a town called Ellicottville, which is like 10 minutes from where I grew up. and they've got 2 different real resorts, not like ski-wing resorts. So we do that quite often.
So you said you've never been injured. Have you ever done anything competitively? Have you ever raced on skis or anything like that?
Bill, this might come to a surprise to you because we work together, and like at work, I'm pretty competitive. But in anything that has to do with like physical fitness, whatever the opposite of competitive is, that's what I am. Like I would like stop swimming during swim meets and like cheer for the other people. Like, go ahead, you got this.
Easily distracted then.
Yeah, and also just like not interested in trying. So that's probably a personality flaw. But no, I never did competitive racing or really. I mean, I was on the track team and the swim team, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't call myself competitive.
Nice. Okay, so over there in Allegheny, and I just clapped, so I'm gonna start that question over again, so I have it clean for the edit. Folks watching live will know that this gets pretty loosey goosey. In Allegheny, what was your favorite place to go eat for a meal?
Oh my gosh. Well, Allegheny has 1 or 2 restaurants, so there's not a huge selection. There's a couple of standouts. There's a place called Randy's Up the River, which is also haunted. So since we're recording this in October, that might be fun to share with folks.
Might be spooky.
Super spooky. Yeah, really scary chicken wings happening over there. Yeah, it's like an old building that's right along the river, as the name suggests. And there's a bunch of kind of spooky ghost stories that the various owners over the years have shared. And I think there was just an article about that, so we can link that in show notes if you want.
Absolutely.
But Randy's Up the River is the best for like cheap beer, chicken wings, chicken tender subs, all your like upstate New York junk food.
Yeah.
And then when I was growing up, there was a cafe called Linger Longer that I worked at for like 6 years maybe.
I love that name.
Yeah, it was a
Linger
cute little
Longer.
place. And that was it was good food when you're a teenager and, starving all the time. So, but I think the place in my area, the like big city next to Allegheny, is called Olean. And there's a place called the Beef and Barrel, which is delicious. It's just like roast beef, everything. So that's probably a good taste of like upstate New York fare. It's like roast beef, beef on wick, horseradish.
Yeah,
chicken wings.
I was gonna say, you ask people this question if they're from the South, it's all like barbecue and things like that, and then up north, it's all like carbs and grease, because you have to like shore yourself up for the winter, I guess.
100%. Yeah, Rochester's like the garbage plate. Syracuse is chicken riggies. It's cool though. There's a really neat kind of like ethnic mix in upstate New York. Like we've got a lot of Polish folks, Ukrainian, and so there's a lot of like Eastern European cuisine that's just kind of like become part of what you eat in Western New York.
Such as?
Oh man, don't put me on the spot, Bill.
See, it's fine because, like I said, this is a live recording. The edited version, there won't be this awkward pause.
I'll have to get like the full list from my best friend growing up is Ukrainian, and so we'd do all the fun stuff with her. But yeah, it's like and every town kind of has like their fests. So you've got Italian fest, and you've got Polish fest, and Ukrainian fest. So lots of just lots of kind of fun events like that.
One dish name that keeps popping into my head that might be Ukrainian, is it halushki? It's like cabbage something or another?
Probably. You're asking the wrong gal.
No, that's interesting though, because when I was doing my research, I noticed that, Allegheny is just a hop, skip, and a jump naturally up the Allegheny River from Pittsburgh, where I grew up. And it was very much the same mix of, different ethnicities of food. And, there'd be these big festivals that would focus on, Polish food or things like that. So, I
didn't realize you grew up in Pittsburgh. That's cool.
I grew up partially in Pittsburgh. I've been everywhere, man. But I lived in Pittsburgh for probably about 3.5, 4 years, and I went to high school and college about an hour outside of Pittsburgh in West Virginia, of all places.
Cool. Did you go to West Virginia University?
No, I went to West Liberty. It was a state college, then it's a university now. It was basically everyone in my high school who didn't want to leave town just drove half an hour up the road and went to West Lib.
Cool.
So I was one of those.
Well, that's funny because my family business is lumber. My mom's side of the family owned a lumber company for like 200 years or something crazy like that.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so obviously when it was first founded, the major route for shipping lumber was the Allegheny River, and they would ship a lot into Pittsburgh. I feel like I heard a rumor that my grandfather once rafted from Allegheny to Pittsburgh, but that's probably incorrect. That's got to be incorrect.
It was like he took a ferry, but then he claimed it was rafting after the fact. He was like, I was going through the...
Yeah, or he like read a book and told us it was him. I don't know.
He read Huck Finn, and he was like, yeah, I remember going down
there.
That could totally be me. Yeah, it's interesting because Pittsburgh, there's a lot of stuff branded Three Rivers around there because it's the Allegheny, the Ohio, and then is it the Mississippi that all come together and meet there in Pittsburgh? I can't remember. I should probably know that.
Sounds right. Yeah, it sounds right.
Cool. Yeah. When in doubt, just go ahead and certify what I say, and we'll be off to the races.
Yeah. If you say it like a fact, it's a fact.
Exactly. Okay, so I did notice when I was doing some research on you and how your life has gone and everything, you were teaching for a second. We're going to talk about that in a couple minutes, but I was wondering, in Allegheny, were there any teachers that had a profound effect on you and might have pushed you in that direction?
Oh, that's a really sweet question. My 8th grade history teacher was the bomb. His name's Mr. Conroy. And he really just he just really encouraged me to do things that were different, and I think treated me like an adult, even though I certainly wasn't. I was 13 years old, just like really trusted me to take initiative and, come up with my own kind of like clubs and events. And so he was really a mentor for me for my young adult life. And then my Spanish teacher, Senora Charles, was great as well. I think it was the same kind of story there, which is like she just treated me like an adult really early. And I think when people treat you like an adult, you're like, great, I'm an adult now. I need to be responsible.
Yeah.
So I remember, sometimes she would, if she was going to be out and there was a substitute teacher who did not speak Spanish, she would have me, like, if I had, like, a free period during the school day, like, go sub her class because I could speak Spanish.
Oh, nice.
So that was really cool. And I think that, that kind of teaching style made me feel like, cool, I'm a Spanish speaker. I'm somebody who speaks Spanish. And for that reason, I would like travel to Spanish-speaking countries and do things that required fluency. And all of that, I think, is the way that you learn and just kind of become an expert in something. So.
Yeah, and I think especially when you're a kid, teenager, an adult, putting trust in you just has such a profound impact on your self-confidence moving forward.
100%, yeah. And I think that's something that I learned when I was teaching. It's actually like a really good strategy if you've got students who are just like school is not clicking with them, or like they're having behaviors that's making it difficult for them or their peers to learn. Giving them responsibilities like that is a great way to re-engage them and kind of just like promote the kinds of behaviors that are going to be more helpful for them. And so, like, now reflecting on that, I'm like, wait a minute, was I a problem child? Is that why they let me do all this stuff? But
flip back through the years, Faith finds a whole new aspect of herself.
Faith was nearing suspension, and finally someone intervened.
All right, so in Allegheny, where were your favorite places to shop? And I'm not talking about, Kmart or whatever. I'm talking about like local places, local businesses.
Oh my gosh. I mean, none of these places exist anymore. So this is
that's fine. This show's built on nostalgia. All we talk about is stuff that doesn't exist anymore.
So there was a place called Education First, and it was like a education supply store. It had erasers and pencils and supplies for teachers. And our babysitter lived like right up this is in the village of Allegheny, not the town. There's no stores in the town. So my babysitter lived like a few blocks up, and her daughter is a teacher still, and she would walk us down to Education First and let us buy erasers. So that was very cool, a very fun shopping experience.
It's amazing when you're a kid what can get you excited, like erasers, yes, or pencil that changes colors when I hold it in my hand, yes, please.
Right. So that was, like as a child. And then I think in my like rebellious teen years, my favorite store was like the piercing and tattoo store, if you can believe it. My mom now knows this, so she won't find out via this podcast, but I had a fake ID when I was a kid, and not like super young, but like 15, 16, and only to like get tattoos. So was a regular there, and buying new jewelry for all my piercings, and just a weird child.
Well, when I grew up, I was very much in the punk rock scene, so it was like
so
if you didn't, if you didn't have a tattoo, you weren't cool, and like the sooner you could get it, the better. If you could have a secret tattoo at 17, man, you were the coolest.
Right, 100%. Yeah. So is that, and then I was really into like old cars, and so there was like a used car lot. I mean, these are like weird examples of shopping places, but I spent a lot of time at the used car lot. I obviously did not have money to purchase vehicles, but my parents graciously purchased for me a like 1976 banana yellow Cadillac DeVille.
Ooh.
It was probably like $1,000 car. It was like really just a sack of junk, but it was so much fun to drive. It had like a shag rug in the back.
Wow. Like that came with it. You didn't add that in, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't do anything to this car. I drove it for maybe like 20 miles and then sold it. But it had a shag carpet in the back, an 8-track player, and then the windows had like no divider. So when you rolled down the front and the back windows, it was just like one big window. Nice. Like the old gas tanks or they're underneath the license plate. It was just like, it was so much fun to drive. So.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Like I love those old cars too. Like they always have like the weirdest little idiosyncratic things. Like what is it? The 76 Gremlin has a gas pedal that's shaped like a big foot. Like they got very experimental with cars in the 70s.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sure.
This is a really fun one.
Nice. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so being up north, one of the reasons I moved away from up north is because there were a lot of really bad winters. We've already kind of touched on winter a little bit. But what was the worst snowstorm you ever had to deal with?
Oh my gosh. I think as a child, snowstorms never felt bad for me because I wasn't worried about getting anywhere. If it snowed a whole lot, I had everything I needed at my house, and all my friends were my neighbors growing up. So it's like, cool, we get to go outside and make snow forts. So, but when I was in college, we had a really bad storm. I went to Colgate University, which is right by Syracuse, which is also like the coldest. It's either the coldest or the snowiest city in the US.
And you majored in toothpaste, right? I'm sorry, I was going to stop when I was
wearing my Colgate hat today. Majored in toothpaste at Colgate, and but there was one storm my freshman year, and I only remember it because it was the only time classes were ever canceled for snow, and it was because all the freshmen got stuck in our dorms because the snow was so high we couldn't open the doors.
Oh wow!
So they had to wait until they dug out all the freshmen and let us all out. Obviously, we didn't know either way because we were college kids and we slept in until like 11, and by then it was all good. So
yeah. I remember one snowstorm we had in college where my dorm was at the bottom of this really steep hill, so no one could drive up or down, and they closed the college for about a week, and so that became like the sledding hill where everyone would just like tear down and sled and then crash into the dorm.
So fun.
There were only a couple injuries.
Yeah.
Just one or two.
Oh my God. They used to like lock down all the lunch trays or like the food hall trays because otherwise we'd steal those and sled with them.
Oh yeah, to sled down on them.
Yeah.
That's fun. Okay, so let's see here. So you mentioned, when we were getting ready for this and everything, that your grandma chairs the Historical Association in Allegheny. This leads me to wonder, does your family have any sort of deep roots in the town, or is it something she just got involved with after the fact?
Yeah, well, she's recently retired from her chair position, but for most of my life, that's kind of what she did. And, every time we had any sort of like town festival, she made all of us grandchildren, she's got a million, wear one of those like sandwich boards, you know what I'm talking about? Where it's over your shoulders and like advertising the Historical Association. So I got into marketing very early. But no, my grandmother's family is from Kentucky. And then she grew up in Michigan. And then my grandfather's family, yes, they do have deep roots in Allegheny. And I mean, obviously with the lumber company being 200 years old, I would assume they got there 200 years ago.
Talk about deep roots.
Right. Yeah, 100%. But Allegheny is like one of those, it's like a classic small town where there's like certain families, like, oh, everybody knows the Thiersdorfs, everybody knows the so-and-sos. And everybody has like their parts of town that they kind of, there's a road where most of the Potters live and all that. So, yeah, I guess that would count as deep roots then. Yeah.
Since your grandma was involved in the Historical Society, are there any, just right off the top of your head, are there any like super random facts about Allegheny that you know? Super random.
Oh my goodness. I was looking this up before we recorded, and there's no like famous people.
There's like a cartographer and like the person who invented the twisty tie, and that's about it.
Wait, really?
No, sorry, that was a joke. I realized as I said it, no, this is factually incorrect, Bill. You shouldn't say this, but then I thought it was funny, so I did anyway.
Oh my gosh, I was gonna say that's cool news. No, there is a book that it's like a journal that's written by these two boys who took the Allegheny River down, I think, to New Orleans.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, kind of like what we were talking about. And so I guess that's a cool fact.
The thing it's most famous for is people leaving.
100%. Yeah. What's really fun, I'm looking at the like Allegheny Memories Facebook page right now, and it's so much fun to go through these. They're like old pictures from like the 1800s, and all the family names are the same.
Oh, really?
It's like the Bozers. I know those people. It's just, it's super fun.
Yeah, where I went to high school and college, we had some families like that too, like the Yocums. There were a ton of Yocums everywhere, and if you look back, like any yearbook has at least 3 Yocums in it. Stuff like that. There's always those families.
Yeah. Oh, it's incredible. Oh, here we go. So this is a 1960 river travel log. So yeah, it's 2 boys who took a canoe from Allegheny to New Orleans. It took them 54 days, and they published their diary. And if you want to buy the book, it is available from the Allegheny Area Historical Association for $13, cash or check only, plus $3.50 if you want it shipped.
Now, I would say, help out Faith's grandma, but you said she's retired now, so she probably doesn't get a cut of that anymore, unfortunately.
No, but she does get some free access. I know this because I was in the hospital for a while last year and needed reading material.
Yeah.
And my grandmother is like, she reads probably a book every week. So I was like, Grandma, what do you have for me? And she sent me this. I was like, come on. All right, I'll read this pamphlet.
Nice.
So funny.
Pamphlet, it's weird because pamphlets seem to be a lot more popular, like Thomas Paine's Common Sense. Like, I guess pamphlets are like blogs now. I guess that's probably what they grew into. All right. So, what are some can't miss attractions you'd recommend to people visiting Allegheny?
Ooh, well, it's a really cool central location for all kinds of like outdoor activities.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're somebody who enjoys hiking, skiing, fishing, boating, um, you can really easily access. I mentioned Ellicottville, which is the ski town.
Yeah.
And because Ellicottville is a little bit more touristy, it's pretty expensive to stay there, but you could get a rental in Allegheny for real cheap. So, so that's fun. We're really close to State Park, Allegheny State Park, and tons of hiking trails. There's lakes, there's cross-country skiing, really good bike paths as well.
Mm-hmm.
So highly recommend that. Um, Kinzoo Dam has a really cool old bridge that you can walk across. Letchworth State Park. Have you heard of Letchworth?
I haven't. No. No. Tell me
It's
about it.
beautiful. It's like ravines and just like really cool rock formations, and that's also very accessible from Allegheny. So none of these things are in Allegheny, but you can stay there and kind of hit all these really awesome places.
So, since there's all these awesome places around Allegheny, do a lot of tourists end up like staying in Allegheny when they go to do all this stuff, or no?
No, I think the most visitors we have in Allegheny are when St. Bonaventure. Have you heard of St. Bonaventure University?
I think I looked it up a little bit in preparation for today, but explain to the people at home.
Yeah. Well, it's a university. It's a Catholic school.
Yeah.
And people sometimes know who we are because every once in a while, Bonas goes to the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
We've historically had sometimes a good basketball program. So anyway, Bonas is in Allegheny, and whenever there's, new student move-ins or parent weekend or homecoming or graduation, we tend to get some people from out of town staying there, but otherwise it's very quiet and pretty much 100% locals.
Yeah, and not very many locals either. Yeah, I think what was it? I think I looked it up. It was like 7,000 people or something in town.
Yeah, and even that seems big to me. Yeah.
Well, you're not counting the mole people that live underneath Allegheny. I'm spitting facts
Right,
today,
right,
and
right.
that's a confirmed
That's
fact about
true.
it. Yeah, subterranean mole people.
My brother's husband, actually, the first time he came home to Allegheny, we tried to spook him a little bit, and we were out on a hike, and I was like, "Let me know if you see any kangaroos." And he was like, "Kangaroos? What do you mean?" And I was like, "Yeah, they're called the Allegheny kangaroos." And in the 20s, there was a train going through town, going to a circus. It crashed. Everything died, but the kangaroos survived. Like, they adapted to survive the winters, and so now we've got kangaroos in the woods. And sometimes there's an open season because they really, they've adapted well, and there's sometimes too many. So he lost. I mean, this is like a solid year, I think, that he was like telling people, he's like, "Oh my God, my husband's from this place where there's wild kangaroos."
See, now I'm just kind of disappointed that you didn't try and pitch this to me as an actual fact about Allegheny.
I know, this really would have been a good way to like just get that rumor mill churning.
Yeah, I mean, I could have pulled like realistic footage of kangaroos in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Probably, maybe, or
Maybe it's like a cover art thing. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, well, Faith, we're going to play a game here real quick. This is a new one I've just developed that I've started throwing into the rotation. I love it, though. It's called the Wheel of Anecdotes. So I'm going to give you a suggestion, and your challenge is to respond with a short anecdote from Allegheny. The shorter, the better. So are you ready? You think you can handle this?
Let's do it.
All right, hamburger.
Oh my God. Burton Burger. The Burton is a bar. They have really good burgers. It's called the Burton Burger. If you're ever driving through Allegheny, you should go there.
Best burger in town. Gotcha. Okay, Allegheny River.
There are giant salamanders in there called hellbenders. This is actually real.
Ooh.
And hellbenders can be super nasty. So if you see a hellbender, don't try to pick it up.
Like, how are they nasty? They sting you, I'm guessing? Or
No, I don't think they sting. Perhaps they have teeth, or maybe this
Ooh.
is just a story that I've made up. But I know that they're not ideal to be around.
Confirm then, hellbenders have fangs and they will bite you and you will turn into a hellbender yourself. Confirmed.
Maybe nasty is because if you have them like in your creek or pond or something, they'll kind of ruin the ecosystem.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ecological scourge, rather.
Exactly.
Okay, chipmunk.
Chipmunk is a small, like, I don't know if it's technically a town, but it's what everybody else would consider a neighborhood in Allegheny, where a family called the Frenches lives.
Fancy. Have you ever met the Frenches? Do they act like they're named French?
No, but they're part of like a huge family ecosystem, and I don't know like the appropriate term for this family, like which family name they use to describe themselves, because it's kind of it's a bunch of families all tied together. Have I ever met the Frenches? Absolutely, we went to school together.
Okay, music.
We have a fun school band. I was first chair saxophone in the school band.
Ooh.
And went to All-State. And all of my best friends are like 3 guys who were just like losers. I love them so much. They're still my best friends, but like they were in band class because they needed the credit, and none of them they knew that they were never going to learn how to play an instrument, so that they're like, let's just do whatever Faith's doing because we know she'll carry the team. So the whole saxophone section was me and my friends, and none of the guys knew how to play, so it was just me. So
Is there a trick to making your saxophone sound like 3 saxophones, or?
The trick is the 3 guys they were very kind of endearing and sweet, and so the band director totally knew they weren't playing, but would never call them out on it.
Now, do you still play saxophone or any music like that?
No, but I did bring my saxophone back to Nashville with me in hopes that maybe I could, do a little street performing. I don't know. I can play maybe Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. We'll see how it goes.
Well, that's a classic. It's stood the test of times. It'll probably get you a buck or 2 on the street.
Truly.
Okay, that one I'm not going to do because we already talked about it a little bit. Okay, high school hangout spot.
High school hangout. Honestly, my house.
Your house?
I was the youngest of 3, and so by the time I was in high school, my parents were like, just don't like kill anyone. So yeah, I lived on 400 acres, and
oh, wow.
so there's a lot of space to go get into trouble. But I think my house was a fun hangout spot.
So it was like your friends would just come all over to your house to hang out.
Oh yeah, like after school, everyone came over. I love to cook, and I loved to cook when I was in high school too. So they knew there was always gonna be food in my house, and it was a fun spot.
Nice. Okay, and let's see here. Okay, last but not least, and this one might not hit, arch nemesis.
Arch nemesis.
Arch nemesis.
Ooh. I don't know that I have an arch nemesis in Allegheny, but Allegany's arch nemesis, like as a town, is Olean, which is the town right next door, which is hilarious because all of our friend groups are kind of the same. But yeah, boo Olean Huskies. Go Allegheny Gators.
Friendly connecting town rivalry, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Well, Faith, thank you for playing the game. I would like to let you know you won absolutely nothing, but you don't get anything, but you won the game. You won the game. So,
great.
Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break to play a little statement from our sponsor, Stream Media, and then we'll be right back to talk some more with Faith. If I can find the button. Oh, it's right here.
Where I'm From is brought to you by Stream Studio. That's STREANN Studio, the web app that puts you in charge of the live show. Stream Studio allows you to take your streaming game to the next level by allowing you to stream to multiple platforms at once. If you want to go to Twitch, if you want to go to YouTube, if you want to go to a website that isn't supported even, you can stream to all of those platforms at once, get feedback from your audience, and most importantly, it puts you in control of the show. Now, Stream Studio has several packages that work for just about any type of broadcaster. From the free plan, where you can stream with a watermark, all the way up to the gold plan, where you can have up to 8 guests. You can stream to as many social platforms as you want. You can get a web link to share your show with external audiences, and you can even get an iframe so you can embed your live stream show directly into your website. Hey, I love Stream Studio so much, I'm using it to produce this show. I want to thank Stream Studio for supporting Where I'm From, and you can give this fantastic software a spin and support Where I'm From at the same time. Just head over to our website at billmeeks.com/whereimfrom and click on the Stream Studio banner so they know we sent you their way.
And we want to thank Stream Studio for sponsoring Where I'm From. Go check it out. Great service. Now, Faith, I noticed when looking at a map, because that's part of what I do for my research, that Allegheny is not too far away from Niagara Falls and the Canadian border. I was wondering if you ever had any sort of adventures in the Great White North.
Yeah, we would fly out of Toronto, usually if we were flying internationally, just because the Buffalo airport when I was growing up was pretty small. Of course, we've been to Niagara Falls. Going to the Canadian side is way better than the American side. So if you're in Buffalo, definitely go across the bridge.
What makes it better on the Canadian
It's
side?
just a better view. Yeah.
More maple syrup?
100%. Yeah. They give you free maple syrup as soon as you get there. No, I never did because obviously in Canada, the drinking age, I think it's 18. At least when I was growing up, it was 18. So a lot of people would go across the border and go get into all kinds of trouble.
Yeah.
And I never did that. I think I got into plenty of trouble in the United States. I didn't have to take this show international.
Yeah, international, there's harsher penalties, if you get into too much trouble.
There are, actually. My brother-in-law got into some trouble in Canada. Trouble that wouldn't really be a huge deal here in the U.S. But he's actually not allowed to go to Canada now. We were booking
really?
we were all booking a family trip a couple of years ago, and we were planning to fly out of Toronto, and he's like, actually, I can't do that. And it's so cute because he's such a rule follower and just world-class great guy that being I actually can't go to Canada is so funny.
Yeah, he just accidentally pissed off the most polite people in the world. Just accidentally.
Right. I'm like, how do you do that? Whatever.
Step 1, be American, probably.
Yeah.
All right, so what took you away from Allegheny eventually?
Well, there's not a whole lot. Obviously, my family's in Allegheny, so that's a factor that would have kept me there. But I left, obviously, to go to college originally. And going back to Allegheny after college isn't really it's not like a career move, You're not oh man. And this was, years ago before remote work was a thing. So now I think my my decisions may have been different, but so left to go to school, and then after school was recruited by Teach for America and placed here in Nashville. So that's what landed me here, and I've just stayed here ever since. It's a great city.
Let's dig in a little on that Teach for America thing, because before your current career as a growth marketer, you were a teacher. So how did you fall into that, and how did you fall away from that?
Yeah. Well, I went to school for international relations and Middle Eastern studies. And so I thought I was going to get into diplomacy, probably in North Africa, and learned pretty quickly that you don't make any money doing that. And it's also, it's a huge commitment, obviously, for your personal safety, but also in a lot of the entry level jobs that you would have in one of those fields. There's a commitment to stay in that country for an extended period of time. And I wasn't ready to do that as a 22-year-old. So I was recruited by Teach for America, which is a national teaching corps that brings and trains teachers who are not traditionally trained to serve in schools where they're having trouble recruiting teachers, where there's essentially a teacher shortage.
Gotcha.
Learned all kinds of stuff. I taught for 3 years. It's not TFA is it's different than AmeriCorps, where there might be like AmeriCorps might provide services to like assist folks, like assist teachers, or Teacher America, you are actually a teacher. So you have a full classroom of students who are expecting you to be a teacher, and so a teacher you must be. So what I really liked about that was the kind of chaos that you're thrown into, and you're just like expected to figure it out. No one gives you a playbook. No one tells you how to do it. So I love that. I love the pace. I love the problem solving that was required. The experimentation and the kind of focus on data. Teaching is a very data centric profession, and I think a lot of folks miss that. So anyway, when I knew that I didn't want to be a teacher forever, that was never the plan. And when it came time to figure out what to do next, I was like, you know what? I think all the things that I really love about teaching are true in startups.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of got into this world.
Some people might say a lot of startups are just a big classroom of kids playing around anyway.
100%, yeah.
Which is to its benefit, So since we're kind of leaning in that direction anyway, why don't you tell me about what you're doing now with Gun.io?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm on the growth marketing team, and what we do specifically is figure out how to help the company grow. And that usually looks like, anything that has to do with the brand, making sure that people know who we are, what we do. As a business, what we do is we connect senior software developers with companies who need senior software developers.
Yeah.
There's like a huge need with companies like us, actually, who don't have an internal recruiting function and don't have the resources to kind of send one of their developers off to become a recruiter.
Yeah.
To help them kind of find the right talent for the project at hand. And so that's what we do.
Yeah, I will say that, as a former freelancer, and this might have come up in my job interview, but one of the things I really liked about you guys as a company when I was interviewing was that, back in the day when I was freelancing, it was a lot of times it was a race to the bottom where, it was all about like undercutting the next guy so you could get the gig and everything, where Gun.io seems like it focuses a lot more on like higher quality talent, connecting them with higher quality clients.
Yeah, 100%, and not using rate as the selling point. I think there's so many ways to think about compensation as a freelancer. And the person who's best suited to make that decision is you. And so we really, if a freelancer gives us, their expectations for salary or rate or whatever it is, we're committed to getting that for them.
Yeah.
So there's, that race to the bottom is really, you'll see that a lot in marketplaces that are self-serve, because, now humans are adapted to Amazon style buying, which is like, all right, here's 10 products that are all kind of the thing I want. Let me just like choose the one that's going to get here the fastest and be the cheapest.
Yeah. Irrespective of quality.
Exactly. Yeah. And applying that to human skill, I think, is just inherently flawed. So we're an anti-marketplace in that sense.
And versus, anyone can go and sign up and make an account. Obviously, anyone can go and sign up and make an account, but they're vetted. You guys work direct. You guys know people's names, where they're not just a number in a database.
Yeah, exactly. And all the developers that are on Gun.io and approved are vetted by senior developers. So they're not vetted by like an algorithm or a random code test or like someone like me who's not a developer. There's a team of senior developers who runs that vetting process. And anybody who they approve to be on the platform, that's them putting their stamp on them, like, yeah, I would hire this person, or like, I would work with this person.
Yeah.
And then all of our developers are also matched to companies by fellow senior developers. So again, you know, if you engage with a recruiter, the person that they're choosing for you, they're not, the recruiter isn't a developer, so they're probably missing a lot of nuance in that match.
Yeah.
I always tell folks, like, the best endorsement is that every single technical person who's on our team, so our entire DevRel team, our entire engineering team, our entire product team, we hired them on the Gun.io platform using the same process that we use for our clients.
So what's the idiom? I just completely
Eating your own dog food?
Eating your own dog food, exactly.
We like to say drinking our own champagne because dog food just feels gross.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, in a pinch, it has some nutrition value to it, but
Okay, yeah.
you're like, not at all, Bill, not at all.
Yeah, I'll buy
Okay.
it.
So back to Allegheny a little bit. What has changed about Allegheny since you left? And what's the most shocking when you go to visit?
Oh, man. You know, obviously businesses come and go. People come and go. I think people really make the place. And so growing up, the feeling that you have in Allegheny is very different than the feeling you have as an adult when you're like, wait a minute, I don't know these people.
Yeah.
You know, growing up, it's like you can't go 5 feet without seeing someone you know, and that kind of keeps you in line. You can't do anything too bad because you're going to get caught.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think just, you know, it's a new kind of like generation of people there, a new generation of businesses.
You know, what I found when I've gone back to places I've lived, you know, sometimes too, it's been so long that the same people are there, but you don't quite recognize them. And then you're like in a conversation with like a clerk at a convenience store, and he's like, yeah, so you remember in Miss Wager's class? And I'm, oh, wait a second, it's Tommy. Like,
Yeah, I know you. Yeah.
yeah, you just randomly run into people like that. All right, let's see here. Yeah, we're almost at the top of the hour. I have like 1 or 2 more questions, I think, and then we'll get you out of here.
Cool.
Okay, so if somebody's heading to Allegheny for a visit, what is the can't miss thing they need to do while they're there?
I would say walk the river trail. There's a 5-mile loop that goes, it starts at, well, it can start wherever because it's a loop. I recommend parking at St. Bonaventure, hopping on, running, biking, walking. The region that Allegheny is in is just, it's so beautiful. There's rolling hills and so much biodiversity and trees. And
Yeah.
so I'd say just hop on the river trail, go on a little walk.
Just walk down the old the Allegheny.
Yeah, the Allegheny River. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so thank you again so much for joining us today, Faith. It's been a lot of fun. You know, we end up talking quite a bit every week, but not really like this. It's all about you know, this, that, and the other. So it's nice to kind of have a nice, relaxing conversation with you. Speaking of, the reason we talk every week is because Gun.io has a podcast out that's been out for coming out with a new season for the past several weeks now, called The Frontier. Why don't you tell people a little bit about? Why don't you tell people a little bit about that and where they can find it while I take a breath?
Yeah, no problem. Well, Bill is our producer, so shout out to Bill. If you like
It's very well edited. I'll just say that much.
It is. It's very well edited. We've got a beautiful, sharp video you can watch on YouTube, or if you're an audio-only person like me, obviously you can do that. But yeah, the Frontier podcast started as kind of a peek into what was happening in the tech industry. You know, there's 1,000,001 podcasts about what people are doing at Facebook, Google, Apple, etc. But there's not a lot of podcasts about what the other 98% of technology-based companies are doing. And I think that's really where, you know, most changes are kind of rooted, where they come from are these kind of smaller companies. So anyway, we started by interviewing technology leaders at those companies to get a sense of what was next on the frontier. And this season, we decided to actually look internally at ourselves at Gun.io and share a little bit more about what we've learned over the last decade doing what we do.
Yeah.
And then also kind of what what we're learning now in this season of change. We just took on a Series A investment, which is really exciting. And obviously, for listeners who have gone through any sort of venture funding, that comes with a lot of change. So we're really candid about that, and we're making an effort to interview folks across the team and get a sense of hey, what have you learned? What are you learning now? What challenges are you facing? And just being transparent about those.
Yeah, and speaking as somebody who has to, go over every episode with a fine-tooth comb, it's great because it kind of, yes, it's very specific to Gun.io and what they're doing, but there's a lot of general lessons that you guys pull from there, throughout the course of the conversation, where it sounds like it's getting really inside baseball, and then you guys come to a point and, oh, no, applies to any business,
Yeah.
So,
oh, cool.
So yeah, really fun. Check out the Frontier podcast. I edit it, so if you like my editing on Where I'm From, you'll like it there too. Okay, so this is one of those little flubs and dubs. Okay, so if you like the show, hold on, wait a second. I'm gonna thank you real quick. Thank you again, Faith, so much for joining us today.
Yeah, Bill, thanks for having me. This is really fun. I'm excited to listen to all the other episodes as well.
Awesome. Please do at least 3 or 4 times, just for the numbers.
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Well, if you like the show and you want to support us, please consider going over to Apple Podcast and leaving us a honest review. I prefer 5 stars, but if you want to make it 4, being honest, I understand that. You can also, spread word of mouth by sharing episodes online. Or, like I said at the top of the episode, if you want to get involved in a call-in episode of Where I'm From, shoot me an email at bill@billmeeks.com and telling me about where you're from, and we'll try and have you on. You can also find links to all of the platforms, the Spotifys, the Apple Podcasts of the world, show notes for every episode, all that at billmeeks.com/whereimfrom. And you can watch us live on Twitch at twitch.tv/billmeeks. We don't have a regular schedule yet, but, we pop up live every once in a while. Just hit notifications and you'll get them. Let's see here. I did that. All right. Great. Well, thanks again so much for joining us from Where I'm From, and come back next week where we talk to somebody else about where they're from. See you next time.
Bye.
And we have stopped the recording. Excellent. We are offline. But
Sweet. Well,
yeah.
Thanks, Bill. This is great.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Fun way to kill an hour, at least.
100%. Yeah. I'm going to go eat lunch now and get ready for my next meeting.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this is going to be out next Tuesday or if I'm going to hold it a week, because I've done 2 this week. I haven't decided which one I'm going to put out first yet, but I'll let you know.
Sounds good.
I'll share it in random over on the Slack, too.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll talk
Cool.
to you soon.
All right, bye.
All right. Bye.